Of course. Can we hear me? So that
Yes, we can hear you.
okay, like I said, yeah, someone is talking. Was anyone saying something? Okay.
I say yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'll just be going for that to just enlighten us about what the Jiipcc mentorship is all about. So Jiipcc mentorship and internship program is a quarterly mentorship program for students, young professionals across Africa. Okay, mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable intellectual property advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forums, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. The program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Nigeria, Africa, and around the world. Yeah. Okay. Objectives of the program. The objective of programs include to provide easy access to intellectual property guidance, training, and resource materials for students, young lawyers, and IP enthusiasts in Africa. To facilitate dialogue network, to facilitate and network among experienced and less experienced intellectual property practitioners and stakeholders. C, to transform mentees into intellectual property mentors and leaders for the next generation of mentees. Lastly, to facilitate further intellectual property mentorship, internships, scholarships, and IP-related job placement for the mentees. So these are the objectives of the Jiipcc mentorship program. So moving on, yeah. So sorry. So moving on, we have announcements. Yeah, just few announcements to make. So the Jiipcc mentorship and internship program it's available, like it's for the next quarter. Yes, so fully online courses on entertainment, business law, data protection and privacy, fintech industry, blockchain, NFTs, metaverse, intellectual property. So the next quarter registration has started. So if you're interested in taking an internship program, maybe in entertainment law, because you have done for intellectual property, you want to broaden your horizon on entertainment and business law, you can register for such. Yes. And also provision for private mentorship. Yes. So there's provision for private mentorship because the mentorship program may not be enough, like the time frame may not be enough. So you get one-on-one interaction with the mentors. So you can register for that as well. Yes, 30 minutes one-on-one mentorship with your favorite Jiipcc mentors. That would be so great. You get hacks, secrets, life lessons, and directions from your favorite mentors. So if you are interested in that, you can quickly send a message or you click on the link. Yes, or you ask for the link to register for the 30 minutes one-on-one mentorship. So our mentors for today, I'm so excited. Our mentors for today, so I'll be reading their profile so that we get to know more about them. So our first mentor for today, I'm coming, please. Our first mentor for today goes by the name Nimfana Talk. Yes. Geographical indication, traditional knowledge, genetic resource. That's what we are doing today. So our mentor is Nimfana Talk. I'm so sorry if I didn't pronounce the name correctly. She's an entrepreneur, intellectual property rights and affairs executive, offering 26 plus years of law firm and in-house corporate experience combined. She's instrumental in mitigating risks, building organizational capacity, driving optimization, and securing multi-million dollar deals. Experience in partnering closely with C-level executives on a wide range of legal, legal, compliance, operational, finance, employment, and strategic business matters. She's an expert in licensing, acquiring, and enforcing intellectual property rights related to platforms. She leveraged business acumen and legal expertise to drive growth while resolving complex issues within high energy and fast-paced environment. She has represented clients in commercial litigation, transactional and intellectual property matters across a wide range of industries in Gulf nations. So this is one of our mentors for today. You're welcome, Miss Navana Top. So our second mentor for today is Mr. Max Ikonge. I'm so sorry if I pronounce the name wrongly. Ikongbe, yes. So Mr. Max is the founder, principal of Ever Law Associates. He works extensively in the fields of arbitration, ICT/technology law, and intellectual technology, and the law course of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies since 2016. He has trained in advanced intellectual property law courses at the World Intellectual Property Organization Academy, and he is an accredited agent of the Nigerian Trademark and Patent Registry, and has conducted intellectual property registration business there since 2010. So, Mr. Max Inkongbe, you're welcome to today's session. I'm very sure that the mentees are eager to hear from our mentors. Yeah, so without wasting time, we'll be going further to the presentation. Yes, so first off, we'll be calling the first presenter. The first presenter, please, you have 7 minutes for your presentation. Please, the first presenter, if the first presenter is not available right now, please can the second presenter proceed?
Good evening, everyone. I'm available.
Okay.
I'm trying to share my screen.
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, you said what?
I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I've just been informed that we should let our mentors, we should let our mentors proceed with their presentation first. So please, let's welcome, while the presenters, you hold on with your presentation after the mentors. So please, is a blessing, you can hold on with sharing your screen while we take our mentor, Mr. Max Ikongbe, for his presentation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. It's, of course, always a privilege to be on the Jiipcc mentorship and to, rub minds and share some of the knowledge one has in the area of IP. I believe it's the second or my third time with this cohort of the mentorship program, and at least I'm happy the progression I see in the topics that we are considering. For me, traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression, which we are looking at today, is some of the areas of IP I believe are really important and crucial to us in Africa that unfortunately we have not put as much on the spotlight as we should have. Of course, I'm looking forward to have had the preview of some of the presentations, and I won't want to delve too much into what I know the presenters will be doing justice to when it gets to the time for the presentations. But just broadly, I would like to just set a broad background that for young IP practitioners, I'm really delighted that you are already coming in contact with traditional knowledge and then traditional cultural expression, and genetic resources, and this very hybrid areas of intellectual property. I mean, you guys essentially are fortunate, and I believe, like it is said, that to whom much is given, much is expected. So part of the problem we have had is that older generation of IP practitioners, and I'll talk about people like myself and people who have been in the IP space a lot longer. A lot of us took a very long time to even get to know of things about traditional knowledge, and I'll just say TKTCs and genetic resources. So personally, I mean, I got involved in the IP space maybe in 2009 when I was got called to the Nigerian bar and became qualified as a lawyer. And of course, my first interaction, of course, was typically just basic stuff, registering trademarks of people, getting a voluntary deposit of copyright processed for them. So it was just at that really basic level. And at that point, we just thought IP was just simply just one of the check boxes you had to tick to fulfill certain government requirements. So for instance, if you had a client who wanted to register new products at the Food and Drug Administration in Nigeria called the NAFDAC, that's the Nigerian Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. So part of their requirement was that to register your product there, you needed to have a trademark. So we just saw trademark as just simply a requirement to register and did not understand that IP in itself had a whole set of uses for IP in business. So personally, I never came across the terms traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expressions, genetic resources until maybe I took my first WIPO course in 2015. That was when for the first time as a practitioner, I ever knew of any of these things. So because of that, I found out that a lot of practitioners actually don't know much about these areas, particularly African practitioners. And why I think it is so important for Africans to know about these areas is that one of the parts of the world where we still, to a large extent, have our culture and this traditional knowledge really well preserved remains Africa. And a lot of the unique problems we have in Africa, for instance, one area where would benefit a lot from TKs is in the area of traditional medicine. African traditional medicine is what, of course, our ancestors have used, and I mean, to a large extent, they were healthy and lived long and fulfilling lives. Unfortunately, because we have adopted a style of life, that was brought to us from the West, so we suddenly find ourselves in a crossroad where we are not able to make the most of our local resources, including local diet and all of that, that would make us healthy. So, I mean, for instance, in traditional African setting, obesity wasn't exactly a problem because Africans ate quite healthy and they lived very active lives because they were largely farmers and had very active lives. So because of that, they were usually physically fit. But unfortunately, we have imbibed the diet and the lifestyle that had been brought to us by the colonialists, and because of that, we now suddenly find Africans struggling with some of the things we never struggled with before. So obesity, for instance. So there's within our local environment a lot of genetic resources, traditional knowledge on how to prepare diet and medicine that could really be a lot of help to us. But unfortunately, because some of these traditional practitioners do not really have the understanding of how IP works, most of those traditional knowledge are transmitted secretly from one generation to the other generation. So for them, even opening up to get IP protection would, in a sense, be nullifying that element of mystic around the transmission of traditional knowledge. So you can see that these are layers of issues that Africa has to deal with if Africa is going to make the most of its traditional knowledge and its traditional cultural expression. And the last analogy I always like to give when it comes to TK and TCEs is that every part of the world actually pushes forward the agenda of the IP that protects its own unique assets. So for instance, France would always have a lot on geographic indications. The reason being that geographic indications is what protects a lot of the products that come from France. So of course, we all know about champagne. So champagne is a popular type of sparkling alcoholic beverage that comes from France. And like I tell people, the statistics show that France makes a lot more money from champagne than Nigeria makes from oil and gas. So you can imagine how valuable it is to them. And that is why they use geographic indications as one of the tools to protect their monopoly over champagne as a beverage. So it tells you that countries typically push forward, and that is why the Western powers, for instance, France and Europe and all, made sure that geographic indication is mainstreamed into the TRIPS agreement. That's the trade-related aspects of intellectual property agreement administered by the World Trade Organization. And because of that, they get very, very enhanced protection for their geographic indications. Unfortunately, Africans who have not done the same, who have not put TKs and TCEs on the global agenda, we have not ensured that protection of these resources becomes a forefront, a front burner and a burning issue on the national scene. And we are losing a lot by doing that. So it's good you are learning about these things now. I encourage you, as you learn about them, please think about them, and as you get into the places where you can influence policy, ensure you influence policy to ensure that Africa is able to really put this on the global agenda and is able to benefit a lot from its unique endowments. Thank you. I believe I overshot my time, so I'll stop at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marks. And it was precise. No, you didn't take over time. Yeah, it was really accurate. Yeah, so moving on, welcoming our second mentor. Yes, if she's around. If she's not around, I think we'll proceed with the presentations by the mentors. Mr. Marks really talked a lot about how traditional knowledge needs to be protected in Nigeria. And I'm sure the mentees have a lot to say about that. So please, is a blessing. Yes, is a blessing. You can share your slides and you can proceed with your presentation. Please, you have 7 minutes. Please, you have 7 minutes and your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, I'm just trying to share my screen. My name is Eze Blessing. I believe you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, I'm the first presenter on behalf of Group 1, and I'll be presenting on traditional knowledge. So this presentation would border on the meaning of traditional knowledge, the reason we should protect traditional knowledge, and the international initiatives, as well as the Nigerian efforts to protect traditional knowledge. And of course, in the course of this presentation, we'll also be making reference to examples of traditional knowledge that do exist. So because of the time, I'll be going straight into the meaning of traditional knowledge. Now, traditional knowledge, also known as biocultural or indigenous knowledge, can be defined as traditional skills, practices, innovations, and know-how or technologies that are developed within communities or indigenous communities and are held collectively. From our slide, we defined it as know-how, skills, and practices that are developed, sustained, and passed on from generation to generation within a community, often forming part of its cultural or spiritual identity. Now, one thing that marks out traditional knowledge is that they have accumulated over time, and they come from the wisdom, skills, and insights of communities. Traditional knowledge can be found in different areas, such as in people's agriculture, medicine, traditional science, cultural expressions, and resource management. It is a shared heritage. Now, why is it important? Why is it important to protect traditional knowledge? Why is it important?
Please kindly note that we can't see your screen.
So where are the
Okay, sorry. I'm really sorry for. Okay, while I'm still making efforts to share my screen, I think I should just continue with the presentation.
Yes, you can. Just continue because your time is going.
Okay, then on the importance of, on the needs to protect traditional knowledge, we identify 2 important needs first of all, in order to stop unauthorized or commercial use of this knowledge. Now, it's important to mention that rural communities have spent years, decades, and sometimes centuries in order to come up with, I believe you can see my screen now.
No.
You can see that you are on the file, but you did not open the file.
Okay, so on why we should protect traditional knowledge, the first one is that protecting it will help to stop unauthorized or commercial use of this knowledge. Since these indigenous people have spent years, they've spent decades and time in order to develop their biological resources or develop their herbal medicine or art and craft or whatever, it's important to protect them, because if they are not protected, then some other persons could make commercial use of this knowledge that comes from the indigenous communities. Then the second important reason why it should be protected is in order to protect and preserve the ancient practices. They've taken time to develop them, therefore it's very important in order to preserve their ancient practices. Now, there are two basic ways we've identified, two protective mechanisms that we've identified for the protection of traditional knowledge. The first one is positive protection, and then the second is defensive mechanism. Positive protection simply means the steps or measures taken or set out to protect traditional knowledge, while defensive mechanism means the measures to ensure that traditional knowledge is not unlawfully exploited. So there are lots of countries of the world like South Africa and India whose laws are tailored towards defensive mechanisms, trying to create measures or set out ways to ensure that traditional knowledge are not unlawfully exploited. The next thing on the slide is the international initiatives to protect traditional knowledge. And here we've identified lots of international treaties, declarations, and instruments that hopes to protect traditional knowledge. The first one is the International Covenant for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants, the UPOV, also known as the UPOV Convention. Then we also have the International Labour Organization Convention, which imposes a responsibility on different governments or different states to protect traditional knowledge. We also have the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, 2007. In Article 31 of this convention, of this declaration, indigenous people have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their intellectual property over their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and cultural expressions. We also have the draft declaration on indigenous rights, 1993, the agreement on the trade-related aspects of IP rights, and a lot others, including the Scapo-Puang Protocol. Sorry if I'm having a tongue twister. It's a protocol on the protection of traditional knowledge. So all this exists on the international space. However, it has been suggested that different countries of the world should try to create or enact laws that protect traditional knowledge as a sui generis part of intellectual property. This is because even for some countries of the world that have tried to protect it under the traditional forms of intellectual property, like we have it, such as copyrights, patents, trademark, and the rest of them, we discover that these aspects of intellectual property are tailored to protect individual ownership, whereas traditional knowledge talks about a group of persons or a community, in fact, owning a creative work or owning a particular invention. So that is why countries of the world have been encouraged to create or enact laws that can protect traditional knowledge as a sui generis part of intellectual property. Now, coming down to Nigeria, the Nigerian initiative to protect traditional knowledge, it is very important to mention that Nigeria has, at the moment, no legal framework protecting traditional knowledge. Rather, there are collateral laws under Nigerian laws that hope to give protection to traditional knowledge. One of these laws is Section 28 of the Copyright Act, which talks about the protection of folklores. So it is believed that traditional knowledge form under this folklores or traditional cultural expressions that can be protected. We also have outside intellectual property, the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency, which is also into protecting traditional ideas, especially as it deals with the medical field. traditional ideas on medicines, bio varieties, and others. Then under Nigerian laws also, it is considered that trade secrets or confidential, the law on trade secret and confidential information can also be used. However, like I mentioned, most classifications of intellectual property are founded on private rights held by single or individual creators. So as a group, we reason that it is important for Nigeria to follow the footsteps of countries of the world like South Africa and India that have enacted laws that are on their own sui generis protecting traditional knowledge or the knowledge of a group or community of persons, that's indigenous persons. Now, we've also identified examples of traditional knowledge. Examples of traditional knowledge. These examples include the yoga, as we know it's practiced by Indians. We have the Eyo festival that we find in the western part of Nigeria, especially in Lagos. We have the tie and dye that is also identifiable with the western part. We also have a combination of spices added in a recipe. We find that there are some parts of Africa that are known for production of a particular kind of food, or they have a particular spice for a particular kind of food, and that do not necessarily exist in other places. So these are examples of traditional knowledge. The next part of this presentation is geographical indication, and that will be taken by another person. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you so much. I was about telling you to round up, but thank you for keeping to time. Okay, please, the next presenter.
I'm here. It's a next topic like sex and family.
Please, the next presenter. Can you hear me?
I'm here. It's a blessing to talk
Okay.
and like sex and present my.
Okay. Please, you have 7 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you see my slide?
Yes, we can, but please speak up louder so we can hear you properly.
Okay. My name is Jiipcc. I'm the second presenter, and I'll be talking on the topic geographical indications. Can you hear me now? Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's not clear. We can hear you, but it's not clear. If you can, it's not clear. Just speak up a little louder. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, I'll be taking on geographical indication, as I said earlier, and I'll be covering what geographical indication is and the functions of geographical indication and the legal framework of geographical indication and lastly, protection of geographical indication. So before we start, I would like to ask if you have ever wondered why champagne is not produced in Nigeria. Yes, that's because there are products peculiar to certain geographical regions, and these can only be produced in those regions. So in order to understand this better, I will start by telling you guys what geographical indication is. Geographical indication is a sign which identifies goods as originating in a specific or locality of a country, given that the reputation, quality, or other characteristics are essential attributes to such region. An example of such products that enjoy the protection of geographical indication include champagne from France, Scotch whiskey from Scotland, Swiss watches from Switzerland, etc. So it's worthy of note that under the International Intellectual Property regime, it is unlawful to produce this particular product in other regions, aside the region in which they are originally lived. Yes, is unlawful. For instance, tapping now, you can Nigeria. Yes, you don't do that because it's peculiar to France. France is a product peculiar to France. So now, again, there must therefore be a clear link between the product and the original place of production. For instance, using the sweet water from Switzerland, you see there is a clear link between the product and the place of origin. Yeah, moving on. So one special thing about a geographical indication is that it enables those who hold the right to use the indication and to prevent issues by a third party whose product does not conform to applicable standard of production. Yes, so that's one wonderful thing about the graphical indication. It prevents any third party from infringing or using it. It is only peculiar to those that produce it. So moving on, the next stop is functions of geographical indication. Yeah. The functions of geographical indication, one is it contributes to social and economic development of rural areas. So geographical indication, as it's on is an instrument used to promote products commercially. And in addition to that, they may bring value to a region, not only in terms of jobs and higher income, but also by promotion, by promotion, by promoting the region as a whole. Yeah, by promoting the region as a whole. So that's one of the functions of the geographical indication. And the second is to promote products commercially and encourage product differentiation. Yeah, the place of origin suggests to consumers that the product will have a particular quality or characteristic that they may value, which thereby promote the product commercially and as well encourage the product differentiation. Yes, the third one is it helps in the preservation of traditional knowledge and cultural expression. Yeah, this is because products identified by geographical indications are often the result of traditional process and knowledge carried forward by a community in a particular region. Together. So that is why geographical indications are usually perceived as part of the cultural heritage of the locality. Just as BOS said that traditional knowledge is transferred from one to another. So that is how geographical knowledge or the ingredients, things they know about the production of that product can be transferred from one nation to another. So now the next subtopic is the legal framework for geographical indication. So we'll be looking at the international framework first. So in the international framework, there are numbers of international conventions and treaties that offer protection for geographical indication, and they include the World Trade Organization, WTO, trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, the Fifth Agreement held in 1994. So, and the next is the Paris Convention for the protection of industrial property held in 1883, sorry. So, and the third is the Madrid Agreement. The fourth is the Madrid Agreement and Protocol held in 1891 and 1989. And the fourth is the Lisbon Agreement for the protection of appellation of origin and other international legislation held in 1958, and Geneva Act on the Lisbon Agreement on appellation of origin and geographical indication held in 2016. And the next framework we'll be looking at is the Africa framework. Yes, in Africa, two regional organizations are relevant to intellectual property protection. Yes, two regional organizations are relevant to intellectual property protection, and they include the African Intellectual Property Organization, the OAPI, and the next one is the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization, ARIPO, 1976. So, going to the last subtopic, which is the protection on geographical indication. So, I think on geographical indication,
please try and round up, Linda.
Okay.
Please try and round up.
Geographical indication are protected through a wide variety of approaches developed in accordance with different legal traditions and various historical and economic conditions. And the major ones are the free generic system, and the second is the trademark law. So what is free generic system? The free generic system is a Latin word meaning of its own kind. It's a term used to identify a label classification that exists independently of other categorizations because of its uniqueness. So free generic method of intellectual property protection may provide legal protection for science and characteristics associated with a product, such as a logo or a certified state, by including them in the related specification. And the next is trademark law. What is trademark? Trademark is any word, name, symbol, or design, or any combination thereof used to identify and distinguish goods from one manufacturer or seller from those of another. And the laws that protect those goods are the Trademark Act. So, sort of time, I'll be stopping here. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you so much. Please, third and last presenter to continue from where the rest presenters. Please, is third presenter around? If you can hear me, please unmute yourself so I can know. Okay, Stephanie. Yes, Stephanie, please unmute yourself. Please, you have 7 minutes for your presentation. So we are working with time.
I can't share now till she's done sharing her screen.
You said?
I can't share my screen till she's done sharing her screen.
Okay, but you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, let me share mine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see
Good
it.
evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll be talking on genetic resources and plant variety. Before we start, we have to know the meaning of the term genetic resource. So they say genetic resources are materials of plants and animals and microorganisms that have inherent values in them of their potential use in research, agriculture, medicine. So what this definition is trying to say is that genetic resources are those things, are those values that are in plants or animals that are naturally in them. Like, let's say what the sunflower has that this other plant does not have, something that is natural in them and unique. They said these are the unique genetic traits and characteristics that make them valuable for scientific research, studies, breeding programs, development of new technologies, etc. As I said earlier, they are the unique genetic traits, like what a particular plant has that each other plant does not have, that can be used for either the development of new technologies, research programs, or scientific cases. So the next slide is going to be talking about IP and genetic resources, the issues relating to IP and this unique trait in plants. They say there are issues related to equating intellectual property and genetic resources, and they majorly include the prevention of erroneous patents, consistency and synergy between ABS and IP system. Now, let's talk about, the first thing we're talking about here is the prevention of erroneous patents. They said genetics are not resulting. Okay, they said these genetic resources, these plants and animals, they cannot be covered under this patent law. And I'll be talking about this later when we go further. But then it's only the invention, that's like the drugs that are gotten from these genetic resources, the technologies that are gotten from these genetic resources that can be patentable. Countries have therefore, in order to prevent unnecessary patent applications, they have adopted some policies which patent applications have to fulfill in order to apply for patent over inventions gotten from GR. So now, in order to avoid unnecessary patent applications, in order to avoid someone, like any random person, from just coming to protect their plants or animals through patent or something like that, there are necessary steps that these people must take, which countries have developed, have been considered. So next one is talking about the use of access and benefit sharing system. So now, like the steps that this country have taken, like the treaties, the laws that they have put up, we have the access benefit sharing system. Now, this access is not stated here, but this access benefit system is an upfront of the CDR, of the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity. It is a significant international treaty that addresses the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, including genetic resources. Like this, we're talking about it later, but I just have to bring it up here because we can't talk about that without talking about this. So it came out from this CBD. Now let's come back here. Access and benefit sharing system. The access and benefit sharing system refers to the ways in which genetic resources may be accessed and benefits that result from their use are shared between the people and countries using the resources. So this is the ways in which these resources can be shared and the ways in which they can be accessed within people of the community. For this disclosure agreements, management of IP issues in ABS management agreements, and database information system is used to regulate genetic resources. Now, we have patent and intellectual property. Patents can be granted for inventions related to genetic resources or processes involving them. However, there is an ongoing debate about the patentability of genetic resources and traditional knowledge associated with them, particularly when it involves the utilization of resources held by indigenous communities. Remember I said earlier that we'll talk about why patents is why genetic resources are not patentable. Now, in the Nigerian law, I'm coming, sorry. Okay, these genetic resources are not patentable because in Nigeria, the Patent and Design Act prohibits the granting of patent rights to plant and animal variety and biological process improvements, which is why under section 1 sub 4 sub A of the Act, it brought about the introduction of a bill that can take these genetic resources under them, which is called the Plant Variety Protection Bill. The Plant Variety Protection Law grants intellectual property rights to breeders of new plant varieties. Like it is since this Act cannot take under genetic resources. This Plant Variety Protection Bill Plant Variety Protection Law was brought into being. This law provides an incentive, more like subsidies, for new and improving their investments. Like variety protection laws usually require distinctiveness, uniformity, stability, and novelty of the plant variety for protection. Before these genetic resources can be taken under this law, it has to fall under these categories. It has to be distinctive, it has to be uniform, stable, and novel to be under this bill. Now let's talk about plant varieties. They say plants, first we have to know what plant varieties are. Plant varieties are the natural differences that exist within plant population. These variations can be observed in various traits, including morphology, physiology, and genetics. So like these are the differences that exist between plants. It can be based on the color of the plant, the size of the plant, the shape or the growth habits of the plant. Like just the differences that exist within plants. So back to our slide, it says plant variety protection laws grant, I think we just talked about that now, yes. Grants intellectual property rights to breeders of new plant varieties. This law provides an incentive for breeders to develop new and improved plant varieties while protecting their investments. The PVP law usually requires exactly what I said earlier. Now, example of this law is the Nigerian Plant Variety Protection Act of 2021. The act aims to promote increased stable crop productivity for smallholder farmers in Nigeria and encourage investment in
Please,
plant
Stephanie, try and round up now, please.
and encourage investment in plant breeding and crop variety development. Now, the international treaties that help to protect these genetic resources and plant varieties include the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, is a significant international treaty that addresses the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, including genetic resources. It encourages countries to protect their genetic resources and requires prior informed consent and mutually agreed terms for their utilization. In conclusion, intellectual property rights such as patent and plant breeders' rights can be applied to genetic resources through the international conventions and the laws made within countries. These laws grant exclusive control over the commercial use, reproduction, and distribution of these resources. These laws provide that it grants exclusive controls to these genetic resources, like that only one person can produce this product. Plant breeders' rights provide protection for new plant varieties that are distinct, uniform, and stable. This right grants breeders exclusive control over their protection, marketing, and distribution of the protected variety for a certain period, usually 20 to 25 years. This plant variety right, it gives exclusive rights to the owners of this plant or product from this plant that they can distribute and produce. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate that. Okay. Please, we can proceed. Please, let's turn on our cameras while we'll take pictures so we could post on our LinkedIn and we say what we learned from this session after which. Please, let's turn on our cameras. Stephanie, we're waiting for you to turn on your camera. You can take a screenshot, smile, take a screenshot, post on LinkedIn, tag Jiipcc, tag the mentor, say what you learned. Yeah, you can smile. Go ahead and smile. You don't need to be serious about it. I do go. You don't want to turn on your camera so that we could see you. Okay, that's all. So we'll be proceeding now with the question. We can turn off our cameras here. I'll do that myself. Yeah, so we'll be proceeding with the questions now for our mentors, pending when Ms. Novana will come online back. She was online a while ago, but she isn't. So the first question, we'll be directing our questions to Mr. Max. So if it's possible, so we'll be taking the first question. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Just trying to. So, okay, the first question is, do certain members of a culture have more of a legal right over traditional knowledge than others? Say, for example, okay, this is like an example now. A king over an ordinary member of a society. That's the question. Let me repeat the question again.
I got
do
the question.
Certain members? Okay.
Yeah, I got the question. Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, and I'll just draw a parallel from another area of law I practice where there are issues of benefit sharing within communities. So in mining law, we have exactly the same challenge. So there's what in mining law is called community development agreement. So once you get a mining lease over an area, you are required by law to enter into a community development agreement with the community, promising that in return for extracting the minerals from their domain, they get certain benefits. So typically, maybe build a school for them, a borehole for them. But this same question arises where the leaders of the community now want extra, privileges to be given to them. So for instance, they tell things like the prince, the son of the ruler of the domain, should be sent abroad to study up to master's level and all of that. So that question always arises. Now, one of the arguments that has been brought to that question, which I'm bringing to the IP context of traditional knowledge now, is to say that note that traditional knowledge essentially is knowledge that has been protected by a community over millennia, over a long period of time. They have nurtured that knowledge, they have experimented, they have expanded on that knowledge over time. So the argument some people make to say the leaders or some parts of the community might get more benefit is that not everybody in the community equally contributed overall to the sustenance and development of that traditional knowledge. So typically, the leadership of that community may have made more sacrifices in a sense than others and might be entitled to gain more benefit from it. But the group, I believe it was a leader presenting for group 2, or was it? No, I think it was a Stephanie, or yeah, I believe Stephanie, sorry, presenting for group 2, who mentioned the CBD. That is the Convention on Biological Diversity, which actually establishes the basis for having access and benefit sharing arrangements or systems in place. So typically, when it comes to those things, in a sense, the community should decide for themselves. So if the community decides that our leaders should get a little bit more than others, then I think it is fair. But what matters at the end is that the benefit that comes, there should be some communal element to that benefit, because it is not just the king or the leaders who safeguarded it, but it's the fact that everybody in the community played a role in it. So for instance, some of those remedies, it was tested on people in the community, and everybody took those remedies and reported back to the local medical practitioners who now knew what was efficacious and what is not efficacious, and now understand some of the side effects of those drugs. So in that sense, it's the whole community that developed it. Sometimes in context of folklore, the whole community actually has to come together to put music together, to put certain rituals and festivals together to protect that resource. So in a sense, the whole community should get some benefit, but it is not out of place if some members of the community get more benefit than others. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Max. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to take your comments on the presentations by the group before proceeding with questions. So please, if you don't mind, we really appreciate if you can make comments so that the presenters can know where they made mistakes or to put them on the right track.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'll just do that quickly. I mean, for me, I commend the 3 groups that presented today. I thought you guys, in terms of your content, I felt your content was quite solid. I mean, you took your time really to go into the respective areas of the law. I believe, of course, there are a few letdowns in terms of your presentation. Technology, of course, might have let you down, but just to give a few hints that when it comes to presentations, online presentations, number one, the first rule of the game is to prepare beforehand. So you should have, and of course, Zoom gives you that option. You can actually go to your Zoom, start a meeting. Nobody else has to join the meeting. You are alone in that meeting. You can test your slides to be sure they are going to be presented. And of course, if you are presenting slides, it's always wiser to use Microsoft PowerPoint. Don't convert your slides to PDF documents. It might not project very well. So I think Group 1 had that challenge where the presenter was using a PDF document instead of a Microsoft PowerPoint document. I mean, if you use a Microsoft PowerPoint document, flipping through your pages is easier. Zoom already has a more detailed interface with Microsoft PowerPoint, so you won't have the challenges where you are presenting your screen and showing another screen. I think for Group 2 and 3, I noticed that both of you presented from your phones. I mean, that's not exactly very ideal. It's safer always to present with a laptop. And if you always work as a team, have somebody else share your screen while you do your presentation, and then just let the person know next slide, and that also works very well. And if you must use your phone to present, then ensure to put your phone in a what they call that, in landscape mode. You know, when you put your phone straight, that's portrait mode. When you put it across, that is landscape mode. When you use landscape mode, your presentation will come out a lot fuller than when you use the portrait mode. So that's one takeaway you should take away when you are presenting. But basically, please, if you can avoid presenting your phone, please avoid. Ensure you present with a laptop, and if you need to act as it, and it's usually better that the presenter has someone else, you know, deal with the troubles of slides. So it's better if you work as a team, have somebody else share screen while the presenter, you know, just prompts the person next slide and all that. That way you'd be doing, you'd have a more effective presentation. Then coming to the content of the presenters, of course, I have a bias, and let me state it clearly for Group 1. Of course, Blessing, who presented for Group 1, you know, is interning with my firm, and of course, I'm very proud of her. And I know she won't blow her horn, but let me blow her horn. She's the best graduating student from Ebonyi State University. She made a first class, so I mean that the first class brain you are dealing with there. So I would encourage you, make sure you are her friend, because I mean, she's got the brain to back up you being her friend. So I mean, I just want to throw that in and commend her, because I'm very proud of her, that I'm proud to be associated with her. So, and of course, I enjoyed the fact that our presentation actually went into the details of traditional knowledge and gave us practical examples, you know, from the Nigerian context to really drive home what traditional knowledge really means. And of course, like I said in my opening presentation, what I expect that group to do more now is I want everybody who's on that group, and I mean everybody on this call, please don't take traditional knowledge for granted. Unfortunately, it's not the area of IP law you're going to make money from immediately. You rarely find a client coming to brief you to say, look, I have a traditional knowledge trouble and all that. Of course, trademarks is easier, you're going to make quick money and all. But in the long term for Africa as a people, if we can pay attention to traditional knowledge and we can really deepen knowledge in it and deepen policy in it as well, we would all benefit overall. Then for Group 2, Leader did a really great job on geographic indications. Like I mentioned, geographic indications is one area where Africa also has an advantage. So, you know, in my opening speech, I said France and Europe, for instance, push geographic indications a lot, because Italy, for instance, makes a lot of money from protecting the kind of cheese that they grow in Italy, because that cheese, the texture, the flavor of the cheese actually is influenced by the regions where it is produced. So because of that, they have a lot of interest in protecting geographic indications. France, of course, protects champagne. I mean, India has a lot of products as well. We all know basmati rice. We know Darjeeling tea, which are unique geographic indications. But like I say, Africa also has a lot of geographic indications. So locally, we look at Ofada rice, for instance. Ijebu Garri is another example, and even services. Calabar kitchen would also be another thing. We could also look at to give some measure of protection under geographic indications. And then lastly, Group 3, Stephanie also did a good job on genetic resources and plant variety. And I mean, a few things she said there, which I think were very important, is that this is an area of law that has a very narrow distinction, because patent law prevents patenting of genetic resources. And the reason is simple, because if you allow patenting of genetic resources, then you could lead to a lot of abuse. And part of this abuse could be, of course, threatening the food security of the people. So imagine if a foreigner is able to come and get a patent over a particular variety of rice or of maize, then you can imagine the impact that would have, and it's able to prevent local farmers from freely accessing seedlings based on its invention. And also, that's why plant variety law tries to strike that balance to ensure that, particularly in the African context, that our food security is not threatened by foreigners coming to get patents on new varieties of crops that are staple crops that Africa, that the African communities depend on as food sources. So there's a need to strike a balance there. And I believe Stephanie did a good job in highlighting some of those issues and why there's a need to strike a balance. So overall, I commend the three groups. You guys did wonderfully well. And of course, barring the advice I've given about working as a team in presentation, I believe if you do that and ensure that one member of your team who is on a laptop is projecting the screen while the presenter presents, I believe you guys would also be able to maximize the time slots you have for presentation. So I think that would be all for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm very sure that the group must have noted this. Thank you so much. Okay, so yes, I'm very sure I'll be asking this question to Miss Nirvana. Yes. And one of the questions by the mentees, it says, how does a country recognize a right over plant variety? The
Sorry,
question
no.
is on,
The first one, or which question?
yes, that's question 3. How does a country recognize a right over plant variety? Is on the chat box, ma.
Yes, yes. How does a country
Yes.
recognize the right over plant variety?
Variety.
You mean here the plant varieties that was already protected as intellectual property, yeah? Hello? Did you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma.
Yeah, yeah. You mean here the protected plant varieties, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, this is very important because we have already a case in Egypt about the plant varieties, and we joined the Treaty of Plant Variety, I think in 2015, because before there is many plants that were stolen, you know, this from many places in Egypt, in the east and the west, especially in the east side. Which is very useful in the medicine and the medical field. So we enter in this treaty, but it was last in order to protect this plant, which is very important and which is it's a treasure from God, I think. And I think that Africa is well known, yani, is famous from these plant varieties, and GI also. It's the continent which is rich in this treasures that God put it in Africa. And each country, I think, in Africa has a special test and special plants that should be protected. The awareness of protection is very important. In order not to be stolen and others use your treasures and your assets. So we should have rights in this plan, and working on this very important step with the governmental and the private sector also, yeah, because it needs money, it needs an awareness, it needs good plan, you know, because it takes time to make the plan and to start to handle and arrange the plant, how we will use it. So it makes it takes steps and time also. So it should be through a plan.
Okay, thank you very much,
the governmental, and the private sector also, because it needs factories in this. Yeah. Sorry, I don't hear you well.
Okay, I thought you were done, ma. I thought you were done. You can proceed,
okay,
ma. You can continue, ma.
I think that it should be joint venture between the governmental and the private sector, because it needs money, as I told you. So it should be donated maybe by some companies, or it should be could be you know, like 50-50 or 40-90, 40-60%. It depends on the plan on each country, but at the end it should be cooperation. It's cooperation between both of the two sectors, because it needs donation, it needs money, it needs awareness. People should be well educated and study, make surveys in this, and have already experience, in this field, the plants, the medicines, how to use it, and when and where and why, and all of these questions should be prepared and well prepared before this project. It's a project, it's a very important project, and at the same time it will have a good revenue for the company, for the country, sorry, and for the company which will cooperate with the government, so the revenue will be good, the benefits will, it's a good benefit also for both of them. They maybe export, this medicine, they maybe use it for sick people, citizens in this country. They need this medicine with low price, or maybe without money, it's free, and it will be free. It depends on the plan, but at the end it will be a good benefit and revenue for the country and the citizens and the companies which will share this project with the government. But it should be, I think it should be a joint venture between both of them, the private sector and the public sector. Okay, خلاص, okay. That's all in my mind now to prepare for this. But I think this is very important project that we should work on it in the future for all African countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Please, we'd also like to know if you can give us an overview of the topic.
All the topic?
Yes, of the topic.
I like very much. Okay, I like very much. Okay, I like very much the topic, especially of the traditional knowledge, which is very sensitive project and sensitive case. It's not normal like the trademark, la patents, and all of this. No, because maybe it's very touchable because it's have roots and relations, especially in Africa. And as I belonging to Africa, I should I read a lot about it and most of the country, and visited many countries, and I realized from my readings and visits that all of them are famous of traditional knowledge, folklore. For example, I will give you a case in Egypt, like the copper. We are famous in make copper in art, in many things, especially in handmade products, which is very rare now because it's decreasing. But it's very well known and unique in like mug, plate, big plates, and with many size and many designs, different designs, and there is some like somebody's like writing inside, like sculpture, sculpture in this copper plates or mugs or cups and all of this. So I respect this point. It's very very unique in countries that are known in the traditional knowledge, not like other countries that they are poor in this point or this asset. And I think that they should be more encouraged by the government or the private sector also, as I told you, because the private sector should have a big role in this, because most of them needs sponsorship, needs support. You know, this support will be not only with money, no, but also by support by education, and to have the awareness to protect these assets. It's very important. If we have the awareness, we'll find a way to have money to support these projects and these people who needs to be more understand and more supported to grow, to grow with the projects and have more how to say, more benefits from these products. And 100% they need money also to support the project. So this is a very important topic. And with this traditional knowledge, we can have more SMEs, you know, because there is a relationship, positive relationship between the traditional knowledge and the SMEs, small and medium enterprises, which is very important to increase the amount of these SMEs in Africa, because it helps families and it helps people and have good how to say GPD on countries, you know, the revenues and level of living in these countries. So and I have a project already in SMEs before. During my master, it was in Latin America. It was a project in Argentina and Brazil, and how they increase the SMEs and the traditional knowledge also in these countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this question is directed to Mr. Max. So, Mr. Max, please, what is the role of ABS?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Mr. Max?
Yes. So you're
Yes.
talking of ABS, right? That's
Yes.
access and benefit sharing arrangement systems or agreement. So yeah, they have a very important role, because I mean, when Group 3 mentioned, you know, under the terms of the CBD, that is the Convention on Biodiversity, there's a requirement on people, you know, on enterprises that want to take and use genetic resources to enter into some sort of benefit sharing agreement with the communities to ensure the communities benefit from the genetic resources. So there's a practical case study in Nigeria. The Nigerian Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRI, you know, developed or got the idea to develop a drug to manage sickle cell anemia. And they got this idea from, I believe, a reverend gentleman who had also learned about it from certain traditional sources. So there are some unique varieties of plants found in some parts of Nigeria, and then with a unique formula to mix them, which is able to manage the effects of sickle cell anemia disease. So the NIPRI standards, the Nigerian Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development, entered into an ABS agreement with the reverend gentleman and the community, and based on that, they were able to actually develop a drug from that traditional knowledge. They were successful as far as getting a patent registered in Nigeria, you know, of course, derivative from that genetic resource, and they also got a patent registered in the US. They were able to commercialize the drug up to a point, but unfortunately, certain political issues got involved in the whole situation, and ultimately, the commercialization wasn't as successful as it should have been. But in any event, there was an ABS agreement that allowed that to happen. So ABS agreements are very important if localities are going to benefit from their traditional knowledge. of course, one of what that does is that incentivizes local communities to open up about their traditional knowledge, because the idea they have is the way traditional knowledge was done before now is that there's a local, what we call a native doctor who has secret knowledge of traditional remedies or other traditional knowledge. And the idea is that he keeps that secret. He only passes it on from himself to maybe his sons, and he passes on within his family line. So nobody else is allowed to know the secrets. But with an ABS agreement, you are allowing the people to know that, look, if you reveal your secrets to us and we commercialize those secrets, you will get some benefit. So in a sense, ABS agreements also encourages traditional societies to open up about their traditional knowledge and put it for the benefit of a greater number of people. So yes, ABS agreements are very important, and they play an important role in facilitating the commercialization of traditional knowledge and other genetic resources, including, of course, plant varieties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So there's another question here. One of the mentees asked that if they could use trade secrets for protection of genetic resources, if it's possible to do that.
Well, yeah, so
I don't know if the
largely,
question is clear, sir.
yeah, I got a question. Yeah, so largely, yes, trade secrets, in a sense, is a form of protection for genetic resources. But you need to understand that the law of genetic resources is actually concerned, in a sense, with the opposite of what the law of trade secret does. I mean, not completely opposite, but the idea is that the law of genetic resources is to allow people commercialize genetic resources in a way that benefits the broader society. So they just don't want people to merely keep that knowledge secret and away from society, like traditional practitioners of traditional knowledge would normally do, where they just keep it secret to themselves and to their families. So the law of trade secret, in a sense, is allows an enterprise to have a monopoly over the economic benefits that would arise out of its confidential information. Its trade secrets that it has kept secret. But with genetic resources, the idea is that you want to be able to really harness the economic value that comes out of a genetic resource, perhaps a new variety of a plant or a new variety of microorganisms that you have been able to create, or an improved variety of microorganisms. So trade secret protection, yes, to an extent, protects your genetic, the economic benefit you derive from the genetic resources. But to a large extent, genetic resources law actually wants to encourage people to make available to the wider benefit of society the results of their improvements on genetic resources. So it's almost kind of a contradiction, but I mean there's some interplay. So the question is right to say yes, there's some level of protection that you can get from genetic resources, but then genetic resources law wants to ensure that even though you open up your genetic resources to the wider benefit of society, you still are able to enjoy some exclusive economic benefits from making your genetic resource improvements available to the broader society. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, 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 it does. Okay, so Lovana, please, do you have any contributions to make on that? I don't know if you can hear me. If she can hear me.
Okay.
If Miss Lovana has any contribution on that question.
Okay, Nirvana, can you hear the moderator? And Nirvana, by the way, it's good to connect with you on this platform again. I think sometime the last time we were mentors together, or sometime last year, it's good to connect with you again. Nirvana, can you hear us? Okay, I suspect Nirvana can't hear us at the moment. She's not responded yet.
Okay. Probably she's occupied with something, but we'll definitely come back to her. So, Mr. Max will just be firing down questions. Okay,
No
so
trouble.
one of the mentees asked on the chat box, can a geographical indication of a specific region or locality of a country serve as its trademark? Linda, if you don't mind, can you unmute yourself and ask that question directly to the name? Linda, are you there?
Okay, I mean, if a geographical indication is same as can be used as trademark, is the same thing as trademark of that particular locality or region? I don't know if you got me.
Yeah, I got that, Linda. That's actually a very good question because there's a very close similarity between geographic indications and trademarks. They serve largely, to an extent, the same purpose of helping to market or to brand goods and market them, to show, that's a source identifier function, so essentially to identify the source of certain goods or services. But the slight difference is that whereas trademarks typically belong to enterprises, that is businesses who sell goods and services, geographic indications, in a sense, belong to communities who, because of the unique features, maybe geographic or human resource features of their community, produce unique goods or services. So in a sense, one of the like in Nigeria, for instance, the only protection you have currently for geographic indications is to register them as what we call collective marks under the Trademarks Act. So that's the only way for now you can protect geographic indications in Nigeria. And when you register them as collective marks, now, remember that a collective mark doesn't belong to an enterprise. It belongs to maybe an association, a communal body that manages different enterprises that produce products, products to which that geographic indication applies. Oh, sorry, Amina, we can hear you. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm sure our mic got unmuted in error. So essentially, while the geographic indication belongs to that community, for instance, if we're talking of Nsukka pepper, Nsukka has a unique type of pepper. It could be the Chamber of Commerce in Nsukka that decides that, okay, many different people, farmers and traders who trade in Nsukka pepper can come together under the auspices of the Nsukka Chamber of Commerce. And Nsukka Chamber of Commerce will register a collective mark and then put guidelines for anybody who wants to market his products under the geographic indication Nsukka pepper. These are the guidelines you must fulfill. So it means you must actually produce that pepper in Nsukka, you must register with them and then set in other guidelines. So whereas, the major difference is that whereas trademarks is, products and services coming from enterprises, geographic indications is coming more from communities of enterprises that come together to protect that geographic indication. So I hope that answers your question, Linda.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So I'll be asking a question that was asked to Ms. Lovana. Yeah, and the question is, how does a country recognize a right over plant variety? I think I asked that question to Ms. Lovana.
Okay, yeah, and I think, yeah, so just to add to what Ms. Nirvana said, so essentially, a country recognizes plant varieties based on its plant varieties law. So in Nigeria before 2021, we didn't have a plant varieties law. So therefore, there was no real recognition for plant varieties in Nigeria. But based on the plant varieties law, it states the minimum requirements that would entitle you to getting protection of plant varieties. And then group 3, I believe Stephanie made it very clear, and that distinction is important to maintain, that what you can patent or what you can protect is not the genetic resource in its raw form, but rather the improvement you have made to it. So under the patent law, for instance, you cannot patent genetic resources or essentially biological processes, but you can patent the hybrids you have produced out of that. So a country protects plant varieties essentially through having a law that sets a balance between preventing people from protecting and monopolizing natural resources given to us by God and getting benefits from their improvements to the natural resources given to us by God. So essentially, every country has to set a balance between those two objectives to ensure that you are not allowing private enterprises now monopolize God-given resources. So you must show some level of effort you have put into developing an improved variety of that genetic resource before you can get protection under plant varieties law. So I hope that answers that question. I know it's a tricky question and it's quite a complex question, but I hope I've been able to bring some context to that.
I also hope that the question has been answered too.
Yeah.
So the main thing is, if you have any question that you love to ask the mentors, feel free to ask. And Miss Ivana, if you like to make any contribution, or if our mentors like to make any contribution to the topic, please you can.
There's an interesting question in the chat box.
Okay,
which
please,
I think
what's
we should
that?
look at.
Please?
Yes, S from Esther Nicholas. So
Esther,
she asked, yes.
Esther, please, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Don't be shy.
Okay, good evening.
Yeah, evening, Esther.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen the movie Gangs of Lagos.
Yeah,
and
I mean, all over the place.
Okay, so after the movie came out, I heard that the community raised an issue of defamation against their traditional knowledge. And I know, like, I had discussed with like a lot of lawyers. Some people were saying that their intellectual property was not infringed on. Others said it was. I was of the opinion that it was actually. So I want to know if they actually do have a case, that's one. And if the Copyright Act, which protects folklore, protects them as well. So yes, that's my question. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. I mean, this question is actually, touching on a hot button issue, because this Gangs of Lagos controversy is really raging. I mean, it has different dimensions. There's the entertainment dimension, the IP dimension, which you have alluded to. There's also the political dimension, which is also adding a lot of fuel to the fire, raging about the controversy surrounding it. But first of all, before I go into the question, I need to make a distinction. Now, traditional knowledge is one aspect. Then there's what we call traditional cultural expressions. That is another aspect. So they are just two sides of the same coin. Traditional knowledge talks about the knowledge and practices that the community has handed down and protected over millennia. Traditional cultural expression talks more about those creative ways of expressing the culture of a people. So things like song, folklore, drama. So in a rough sense, while traditional knowledge can be equated to patents, because it talks about solutions to technical problems like traditional medicine and all of that. Traditional cultural expression talks more about the flair of expressing human ingenuity, more like copyright. So you can roughly equate traditional knowledge to patents and traditional cultural expressions to copyright. So in the Gangs of Lagos issue, what is actually implicated is more of traditional cultural expression, because the Eyo community is saying, look, what you have done essentially, you have misappropriated our traditional cultural expression, the way we express ourselves in our tradition in terms of the Eyo masquerade, and you have portrayed the whole community in bad light and made it look like it's, it's underpinned by a lot of criminality and other unsavory conduct. So the first point to take off from is that every community, in a sense, has a right to control how it is portrayed in media or in contemporary culture, in terms of making movies about them and all of that. So they have the right to have a say in how you portray them, so that they're not portraying them in bad light. So that comes largely from the traditional cultural expression side of things. And under even the old Copyright Act and then the new Copyright Act, there's a protection for folklore. So folklore simply means traditional cultural expressions or stories and myths and legends that have been told by a community over time and protected and projected by them. So one example, for instance, is the movie. My children watch this movie a lot. What's the name of this movie now? How am I forgetting the name? The movie that has oh dear, that movie sets it's can you imagine? I'm forgetting the name of this movie. Well, I remember the name. When I remember the name, I'll mention it. But it's essentially movies that utilize the culture of some of the Nordic people. That's the people in the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden, and those countries far up north, close to the North Pole. So in doing that movie, the producers of the movie had to go and get permission from the people that were about to use their culture, to portray their culture. So there's a sense in which you should get the permission of the of the culture before you portray them in a movie and name them, because by doing that, you are in a sense, creating projecting their image in a unique way. So that the community has a right to say, look, we have to protect how you use us. Or if you want to use our folklore, then you need to get permission from us. And under the Nigerian Copyright Act, if you don't do that, then the Attorney General actually has the right to bring an action on behalf of the community. So in the Gangs of Lagos case, I believe that the committee might have some sort of right to say, yes, you are portraying us in a movie, and we have a right to control to an extent how you portray us in that movie. But however, I think the approach that we have seen, the political approach we have seen towards the matter, seems not to be exactly right. I mean, if the government of Lagos feels that maybe the community needs to benefit from the appropriation of their traditional cultural expression, then I think the Attorney General of Lagos State is in position as Attorney General of the state to be the one to project those issues. But we have seen, almost a militant type of way. And of course, people in the creative industry will tell you about what they call artistic expression, artistic freedom. So they should have a right to portray their craft and to express themselves the way they want without, being hindered unnecessarily. But however, I believe that right to artistic freedom or what they call creators' license has some limits, because where you are beginning to project a community in bad light, that community has the right to raise issues and to insist on being projected in good light, and also to have some benefits coming out of the fact that you are using their culture to sell your movie and to make a lot of economic benefits. So yes, I think the community have a case. Does copyright protect them as well? Yes, to an extent, yes, but just that they may have to project that through the Attorney General of Lagos State and not directly by themselves. Though I think the new Copyright Act, I would have to check that and I'll try and get back to you on that. I think it has liberalized that scheme a little bit. So I think the Eyo community themselves, under the new Copyright Act 2022, should be able to, assert their rights by themselves. But however, from a defamation point of view, I don't think so, because defamation is about, it's a different set of law from IP law. Defamation is a tort that simply gives a right of relief to a party whose reputation has been injured in the eyes of reasonable members of the community. So in a sense, defamation law is about individuals, not about community. So I don't think a community can really sue for the defamation of his corporate reputation. Rather, individuals in that community might be able to bring a class or a representative action to enforce, to seek remedy or damages for blackening the reputation of that community. But I think it's an interesting case, and we want to see how it keeps developing and how it goes. But it's an interesting one, and I hope I have done justice to your question, Esther.
Yes, sir, you have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess we're done with all the questions.
Yes, we are done with all the questions. Yes, I don't know if Fala has any contributions to if he on Miss Nivana. Okay, in absence of that, I don't know if Ms. Juliana Imam is present on the meeting, so that if she
Miss
has.
Diana is not present.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think Miss Nirvana is also present on the call. I think I can see a message on the chat box saying there is a question that was not taken.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, we just took that now. I think that was.
I thought that's the one that was addressed.
Okay, I think Miss Nirvana is back, so maybe if she has any contribution to that question.
Sorry.
Before we end the call. Moderator.
Because it's not shown the question. It's not shown here.
Esther, I don't know if you can repeat the question.
Could you please write it?
Okay, but the question is actually on the chat box, actually.
Oh,
but then the
question. GI?
No. It's on. Okay, the question is actually based on a movie, The Gangs of Lagos. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but in the movie, some particular community in Nigeria were portrayed in a negative light, And then they came out to say that they're raising issues against defamation, that their reputation has been stained and all of that. And so I was asking if they have a case, if they can actually raise an issue on defamation against their traditional knowledge, because these are communities in a particular part of Nigeria. So I was asking if they can actually have a case that there's a defamation against their traditional knowledge, and if the Copyright Act, which protects folklore, actually protects them. Yes, so that's my question.
Yes, but it's not shown here, huh? I cannot find because it mentions that it was before my participation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please.
Nirvana, I've just reposted the questions on the chat box. I hope you can see it now. I've just reposted the questions on the chat box.
Post the question, okay.
Yeah.
Which one? The first one, yeah?
Oh, okay, sorry, no, I have not posted that one. Let me post the question you have just been asked now. Sorry. I just did now. The last question now on the chat.
The EU. Yeah, okay. The EU community raised an issue. What do you mean by do they have a case? Like what a case? Yeah. Case of what here? A protection, intellectual property, or what? Number one.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so Nirvana, I guess the question is whether a community of people can would have a case to say that a movie has defamed their community. The movie has
organizing,
yes, maybe so a movie that has said some bad things about their community. Would they have a case under copyright law, under IP law?
First point, the movie Jangs, yeah, Jangs of Lagos. This is a movie about because I don't know, I don't have make a search about it, not yet. Yeah, I can make it after our meeting, but let's finish it to more understand. It is discussing the traditional knowledge in this movie of Nigeria.
Yes.
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 Fine.
So the Eyo community is a community in Nigeria, and in the movie Gangs of Lagos, the Eyo community was portrayed as a community of criminals. You know, a lot of bad things happening in that community. So the community is a real community, and they are angry that why has the movie made their community look like they are all criminals.
Yeah. But you like this movie? It's have a good how to say reason or good role, or it's a bad role. You understood? You understood my question?
A bad role.
Bad role. It's increases the anger in people. Yeah.
Yes.
طب why don't you present it to the tribunal as a case, as you know, it's infringement, you know.
Okay. So the question
can destroy a generation, and especially the children. They are more influenced in most countries about this movie, so they can have a bad influence on these kids, especially kids, you know. Adult خلاص, they understand, but kids can be very influenced about this movie, especially. Yeah. So you should protect your community to have a case, you know, and don't stop and just talk as intellectual property. You should make a step and have a positive reaction against this movie. You understood me?
Yes.
Yes. By مثلا have مثلا for example talks, recording talks of people, of Nigerian people in the street, and how they refused this kind of movie, you know. And with these talks you can make through Google and like, you know, LinkedIn, there is many talks with and against, you know, this, yeah, and percentage, and all of this. You can make this on LinkedIn or on Google through any big community to be shown worldwide. So you will have the power to present your voice and will be heard, you know, through these people and this percentage, these talks, these videos on YouTube. You should have, you make something against this movie. And the second one, does the copyright which protects folklore, protects them as well. The copyright, yeah, it protects folklore. You mean here protects the copyright, protects the movie, yeah?
Yes.
Yes,
To
like
know-
Disney, you know, Disney. Yes, yes, it could be protected by copyright, yes.
Oh, good.
But it's not protected yet, yeah? It's not protected yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Possible.
Yeah.
Let's make a step, important step and quick step in this issue and against this movie. And it's very, very important because we have the same case in Egypt. Also, we have some movies on Netflix which are against our civilization. And so we should resolve it quickly because if you time passed, it will not be good. It's not you know, it's not your positive side. You lost, you know. So you should have a quick step, quick reaction against this. There is many ideas, maybe without money, you know, through people, through YouTube, through Google, through this percentage, as I told you, through many maybe talks in good communities like intellectual property, maybe with you know, you have a WIPO office in Nigeria, yes.
Yes.
You can have a talk and recording with these people and employees there. It's very important, and they have influence also. You know, you can talk to these people and these communities, which is well educated, well cultured, and they know how to help you in this case. It's very important. But
Thank you very much.
you should have quick steps, please, Jan. Please, quick steps. It's very important. Yes.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Much, Ms. Nirvana. Thank you very much, Mr. Max, and also to our presenters for today. Before we go for today, I'll encourage everyone to put on their videos. Let's take a quick screenshot of our faces on the call today. Thank you very much as you do so.
Just a minute.
Okay, I'm still waiting. Esther Nicholas, Stephanie, Mary Jane, is a blessing. I'm Suleiman. I can see you guys are on the call. Just kindly put on your videos for a few seconds. I'm taking the screenshots now. Okay. Please smile for the camera. Miss Nirvana, we can't see your video
Yes,
yet.
yes, I'm coming. I'm coming. Just a minute. Yes. Again. Where? Okay. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, your face is not on the camera. She's gone.
Me?
Yeah, your face was showing half on the camera.
Okay. Maybe I open the window.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now
Thank you.
it's
Thank
better
you.
now.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma. Okay, we've taken the screenshots. I think with this we've taken all the questions. I don't know if any mentees still have any question for our mentors before we go for today. You can kindly ask now. Thank you very much, Mr. Max Ikongwe and Ms. Nirvana Talk, for the very impactful session today, the knowledge being shared. Ms. Nirvana and Mr. Max also made emphasis on the last question on how it can be protected and how we can reach out to the organizations that will facilitate reporting this kind of infringement and wrong portrayal of a society. With that being said, I also congratulate and thank our mentees that did the presentation, the team that came together to do all the work on your slides. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you guys next week on the next session. Thank you very much, Amina, for everything you are doing at the back end. So with this, we've come to the end of the session for today. Thank you very much, everyone. And have a lovely weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you.